This is Ally Nicole Wow, also known as the Masked Majesty when I'm in this mode. Welcome to this part of my multiverse today. Spending a little bit more time talking to empaths, and especially ones who are influencers and here to be leaders. So I've been spending some time just addressing just the different variations of empathic metamorphosis and how important it is to be able to navigate this process and to make sure that you are accurately preparing to really launch from your human cocoon experience really as this divine human butterfly. But today, what I want to talk about is the timing and what it's actually time for as it relates to empathic influencers and leaders. It really is your time to be the butterfly, an eagle, and also a phoenix. So it's time to soar, and it's time to soar in those formats and in this higher expression as it relates to your true purpose. So one of the reasons why you want to be in the soaring mode is because it lifts you above the current situations that normally you would only see just head on. So when you go through a unique metamorphosis process, and what I teach in my new creation metamorphosis is that the butterfly actually morphs into an eagle and then the eagle into a phoenix. And so it's a cohesive trinity of soaring, so to speak, in a very successful way, high level way at that. Because this is about your next level of impact and income and being able to excel in ways like never before. So why is this important? It's important because the movements that you're here to bring forth, and you are here to bring forth movements, in order to expand those movements in a very massive way, you're going to need the impact and the income really operating on a completely different level and trajectory than before. And I have resources below that can help you level up in that way as an empathic influencer and leader. So it's time to soar. But before you fully launch from this metamorphosis, you want to make sure that you have built up the currency of character and that you have become a good time steward of your life. All right. But these are really, really important because it doesn't matter what skills you have, what gifts and talents that you have, if you have not developed the proper character and you are not resourceful in terms of your time currency and how you spend your time, the next level of what is going to be presented as far as purposes, you will not be ready for that. So it's important, but it is time to soar. But you want to make sure you are soaring in character and really honoring this time that we have in this journey of life, right? You need to be honoring people and, of course, honoring yourself. You need to be strongly rooted and connected to source in a way like never before, but not in the old traditional formats. You have come into this divine human expression, which is part of your superpower abilities. So you have to operate on a completely different scale than before because you are functioning from a newer template, right? And that template is unique to you. So there's no cookie cutter frameworks, even as what I teach in the new definition empath. Yes, there are some characteristics for sure that are going to be pretty much ones that every empath within the new definition premise is going to fall under, but there's still going to be unique, this uniqueness about who you are, okay? So it's important to really be in this mindset of soaring, launching and landing yourself, but being mindful of how that's being done. Now, something else that I want to say is that you don't have to be perfect to fully launch from this metamorphosis experience, but you do need to have grounded the awareness of what is most important, going back to what I said about character and time stewardship. So maybe you're not as grounded in those areas, okay? But that doesn't mean you can't still fully launch into the new experience. It just means that as you are launching, you are continuing to level up in those areas and not being asleep to the importance, of that, of those areas, right? So it's important. And the reason why I have to say this is because a lot of times empaths, they try to hold themselves back by saying, well, I'm not ready and I don't have this together, or X, Y, and Z, all these different things that just produce the stall tactic that really just doesn't make sense. It's part of what I teach in another aspect around the empathic experience about the insanity zone, and just the rebellion and resistance that just really has no, I mean, it just has no founding. It's insane, and I've definitely over the years examined my own insanity moments, so to speak, just the things that just really don't make sense. And when I would do that, it's not with judgment. And that's the same that I tell others. You don't have to judge yourself, but there are some things that you need to be realistic about in terms of understanding that there are certain behaviors and characteristics that don't serve you, and you need to do an examination of those to actually look at those and say, really, this doesn't make sense. I'm supposed to be an empath, I'm supposed to be super powerful, but yet I keep falling in these certain types of traps, or I want to serve the world. I have a big purpose, yet I don't want to charge for my services. And then I don't feel ready. You start examining those things. It doesn't make sense. And as I tell most of them that they don't understand, they're under a virus, they're under a trap of a certain type of conditioning that is kind of launched out there for them to subscribe to, so that they keep themselves back and don't be as powerful and continue to let different paradigms and structures or different things be the dominant force in the world, in the marketplace, so to speak. And empaths aren't realizing that you have the ability, you have the power to be beyond this. But if you keep allowing yourself to be in that loop, in that mind virus, but it's interesting, a lot of them actually like to be there. The virus serves them because they don't feel that they're ready to move forward. But again, I always say, examine that. Why is that? If you're here for a greater purpose, why would you be delaying, or why would you feel like you're not adequate enough? Well, none of this stuff makes sense. It doesn't. Again, it's part of the insanity, but it's time to be soaring in a very accelerated way. So you have to really jettison those types of mindsets and those types of viruses and look at things for what they are and just say, this really doesn't add up. It doesn't add up why I feel a certain way. It doesn't add up why I keep maybe possibly attracting narcissistic type of relationships, or relationships where people don't honor me, where I'm giving away my time for free, and then those people aren't really using what I'm giving to them. They're not really taking full advantage to maximize their potential. All of this speaks volumes to what's going on with us, but also looking at, why is this? And again, things that just don't add up, just doesn't add up. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, again, it's time to be in flight. It's time to be soaring, and we should not take life for granted and act like we just have all the time in the world. And that's what's really interesting to me when I hear certain empaths act in that way or talk, in that way. They act like you just have so much time. It's like, well, when are you planning to do this? Are you trying to just accumulate wisdom in this lifetime, so possibly in another lifetime, if you subscribe to that you'll be able to carry it out? Again, it doesn't make sense. You really have to look at that. You have to examine before you start launching. This It doesn't add up. It just doesn't, you know. And I'm going to be honest with you. I actually don't work with unevolved empaths. And that's why I work in the higher end space too. That's where I've been called to. Um, you know, because one thing I know, and I hate to say it, but I will, but a lot of unevolved and unempowered empaths, they really injure other empaths in a sense. You know, they'll waste other empaths' time by seeking help and different things, but then not really doing anything with it. And then on top of that, not even having the money to pay for the time that they've used up of other people. And so, you know, I talked about in the previous segment how what happens when you become them, what happens when empaths end up becoming the narcissist that they have quote unquote escaped from, or so they then get in situations with other empaths and then they try to be the narcissist. They want people to cater to them. They want people to, you know, woe is them and let them be on their own time, create things of having attention on them a certain way. It's a mental illness that they have really cultivated. And but again, it's time to be soaring, but you have to recognize that these are things that really keep you back. And I want to say this to empathic leaders and influencers, that don't waste your time with empaths who are unevolved and unempowered. And you may think that that's your role to bring them into empowerment. But as I mentioned in a previous segment, the way that you do that is you create a self-study type of experience for them to do it themselves. Don't ever allow empaths, or anybody really, but empaths especially, to be on their own time as it relates to them leveling up. No, they already can't pay or won't pay you enough, you know, because their root chakra is, you know, out of order and not aligned to bring in the abundance or to keep the abundance that comes in. Don't waste your time there. If you want to serve them, create publications, create some type of MP3 product, or do a free talk series or so and put it on YouTube or a podcast or so, and allow that to serve them. Create a separate little platform on a like on Tumblr or a Blogspot or so, on one of those free platforms, and put a blog post series up there, and here they go. Let them do it themselves, all right? But you don't need to be spending your precious time trying to coddle and get them to go beyond where they are when that's not what they're really interested in. Another thing that I have taught on over the years is that unevolved empaths and and unempowered empaths, they are really like the children of Israelite reincarnated. They come out of Egypt, but Egypt doesn't come out of them. They ultimately never end up crossing over into the promised land. They get stuck in their resistance and they wander around intentionally with self-induced ignorance, and they keep going around the mountain. And they're choosing that path. They get out of narcissistic relationships, or they get out of certain hard times, so to speak, but they actually don't really want to cross over into the promised land. They like being in that wilderness. They can say that they don't, but they do. So why is it that typically they do that and they resist and rebel so much? A lot of times they are so angry at God for allowing them to go through certain things that they're like, oh, I'm going to do God, I'm going to do it eventually, but it's going to be my way. So I'm going to resist and rebel until I can't resist and rebel anymore, and then I will do it. But just following divine guidance of here's the direction to take and to go and to do, and life can be easier and sweet. No, they're not interested in that. They're not interested in that. They have a bone to pick with God, with source, however, you know, they call that for themselves. You, as an empowered and evolved empath, empathic influencer and leader who's ready to soar, again, you don't have time for that. So before you are planning to launch from this metamorphosis, make sure that you are not serving unevolved, unempowered empaths on your physical time. All right, on your physical time. All right, all the things that I've talked about, leveling up in character, also being a good time stewardship, having good time stewardship, I should say. Yes. And be sure to go back and listen to this, because some of this I know can be hard for some to really take in, but you know the truth, and it may startle you before it sets you free. But if you definitely want to be free indeed, then certainly make sure that you are being truthful with yourself and you are allowing yourself to come into the fullness of honoring who you are. And then you can launch and land yourself effectively. All right, so that's what I wanted to share. I've done a few other segments, on this, but as I mentioned, there'll be information below that can help you really take things to the next level, because it certainly is your time. You do have superpowers and super abilities, and it's time to tap into those. And don't let anyone give you labels of what that should be or look like, so to speak. You can discover that for yourself by being present. What are my unique, empathic, superpower giftings? What are they? And how can I leverage those, use those, maximize those in the present to be the absolute best that I can be? And the reason why this is important to ask these questions is because one thing about the empathic powers, if you're not here to use them to the fullest extent, they won't open up to you. So some people may be wondering why these powers don't actually come through for them, why they actually can't tap into these empathic powers, because they don't really have any plans to really use them for the highest benefit. If people are scared to step into their purpose, what do you need superpowers for? Superpowers are for superheroes or superheroines, okay? They're for people who are here to maximize them for the highest and best good, not people who are, oh, I'm still trying to figure this out. No, you may have the gifting within you in that encoding, but that encoding will not be unlocked if it's not going to be used for the highest and maximum benefit. You can't be victorious and be a victim at the same time. All right. But for those evolved, this is your time to be in flight, to be soaring, soaring as the butterfly, soaring as the eagle who has that higher insight and awareness. Butterflies have those panoramic views, a panoramic lens and perspective. They can see holistically, just like an eagle can as well. But also a phoenix has, these powers. And so you want to be in those type of higher level vibration. So you have the higher level awareness, and you can soar and do the impossible, the unimaginable. All right, so here's to your empathic metamorphosis for you to launch and land yourself and be in flight and soar during this season.